Introduction to Power Query. Now let's have a basic understanding of what Power Query actually is. So if I ask you a question, what is Power Query, right? So a basic layman terms, the answer to this is that it's basically a tool that helps you transform data into simpler terms, right? Through that, if you attach a lot of different things like Power BI, it can also help in your visualization of data. So Power Query is a data transformation and connection tool. What does connection mean here? So connection basically means, so I'll just give you a visual representation of it. So if you have one Excel table, right, Excel sheet, in which you have 3 columns, right? Let's take an example of employee IDs. So your first column is employee ID. Your second column is employee name, and the third column is employee gender, let's say. Okay. And we have another Excel sheet that has again 2 columns this time. One is the employee ID, the other one is the employee salary, right? So now in this case, what connection means, basically it will connect these 2 Excel files and make it as one file. So this is exactly what connection means here. So this is good for a smaller data set, but if we have a very large data set, then it's best to use other database management tools like SQL or MongoDB, so something of that sort. But when we talk about smaller data sets in which you just have a very small sort of data in 2 different Excel files or 2 different sheets in one file, so all that you can manage, you can connect those things through Power Query very easily. So it's basically transforming the data and connection that is built in Microsoft Excel, right? So it is also available in other Microsoft products like, as I mentioned, Power BI and other tools of Microsoft. It is also useful. So it is designed to help users efficiently import, clean and transform data, right? In the further modules, I will tell you the importance of data cleaning, because data cleaning is something that everybody has to do with data. And to have the understanding of how this data can be used, can be cleaned into usable formats, considering our problem statement at hand, right? So all these things we will be talking about in the coming few modules. So in a nutshell, it is designed to help users efficiently import, clean and transform the data from various sources before using it for analysis and different types of reportings, right? So if I talk to you and if I ask you that what are the key characteristics and functions of Power Query, so the answer that would be importing, cleaning and transformation, as we just discussed. So what is data import, right? Power Query allows you to easily pull data from a wide range of sources, including Excel files, CSV, databases, web sources and more. It simplifies the process of retrieving data and even from multiple locations within the system. So what exactly this helps in, right, is that you don't have to worry about that. For example, if you have a SQL database, you don't have to convert it into CSV files or Excel files. You don't have to create that. It's already will understand which format it is in and it will transform the data as per your needs. So one such new feature that has come in this particular Power Query is now it can retrieve data from PDF files as well. So this is something that is new, which was not there before. But now if you have a PDF in which you have a sort of data that is there, it can retrieve the data from that particular PDF as well. I'll show you that as well. Then comes data cleaning. So data cleaning, it provides a tool for cleaning, shaping data, which can involve removing duplicates, filtering out unwanted information, sorting data and correcting errors. Then comes data transformation. Now Power Query enables users to manipulate and reshape data. You can split or merge columns, convert data types, apply custom calculations and create new columns to suit better your various analytical needs. Now what happens is that in a normal functioning of Excel, there is a heavy usage of various functions that you need to type out, right? For example, if you want to sum a few columns, right, what do? You right, equal to some function, and then the entire the cells drag and drop till the time you want it, right? So that's how you get the sum of that particular column or the particular rows. So in this case, what you not need to do is use your keyboard. Everything can be done with just the clicks from your mouse. That's the beauty of Power Query. So when I talk about data transformation, right, reshaping of data, you can split and merge columns, right? Why is it important? So in a nutshell, it is important because there are various problem statements to what you would be doing. And to understand that what is the way of thinking you should start with when you receive a data set, identifying the problem statement, removing the various elements that are not required, and also transforming it into ways that can make your analysis easier, right? If you need to create additional columns, if you need to hide certain rows or delete certain rows, remove certain rows, so all these things can be done through data transformation in Power Query, right? Then comes data combination. Now users can combine the data from various sources by joining various tables, merging queries, and appending queries, right? So I just talked about this in this particular slide, that you can merge different tables as well, right? So joining tables, merging queries, and appending queries, right? This feature is particularly valuable when you need to consolidate data from various places into a single data set for analysis, right? So when you will be entering the corporate space, especially when you're talking about consulting firms, right? If you have the dream to go in consulting firms, then this particular element in which you have to use a lot of different Excel sheets, Excel tables, and then find your analysis. So opening all those different files, Excel files, can become a big task. To simplify that analysis, to simplify that task, it is easier for you to have that in one single data set rather than split it across various files. So what you will be more efficient when you're using Power Query in that regard. The interface, right? The Power Query interface is such beautifully designed that it is very user friendly. The visual interface for performing all the various tasks that you want to do. It doesn't require extensive coding or technical skills, making it accessible to the worldwide range of users, right? So this is the beauty. Now I can give you an analogy of this. How is that the case? So for example, earlier, right, we have seen that to do any mundane task, you have to do it again and again, right? You have to do it how you're supposed to do it, through manual power. But the introduction of various simplified tools, right, various artificial intelligence tools has made the life easier, right? ChatGPT is one such thing in which most of your day-to-day tasks can be simplified even in your corporate space. So this is the reason why automation of various things are so important in today's world, because nobody wants to do the task again and again. It becomes mundane and it's not very efficient to do the same task with the same effort again and again, when that task can be simplified, or when that task can be broken down into steps and can be done more efficiently. So efficiency is what every company looks at, and in today's world, and being efficient is one of the most important elements for your career growing in the corporate space. So user-friendly interface is what we were talking about. So the Power Query editor offers a user-friendly visual interface for performing all these tasks, right? So just how in ChatGPT you do not have to learn any programming language, you do not have to learn anything, you don't have to learn Python, C or R, you don't have to learn any programming language. Just what you know, right? What your basic task is, you just type it out to ChatGPT, right? You give the instructions in your language and not in computer language. So that is what the change has been in the past 1 year, where everything is now being automated, is now being transformed, and we are leveraging the AI, the power of AI in building the corporate companies, building the corporate space and growing it further. So it's very important to be in the zone in which you can automate things, and Power Query is one such thing in which you can really automate a lot of different elements here. So there is one catch though when we talk about Power Query, that there are some prerequisites for Power Query and various system requirements, right? Power Query is not readily available in all the Microsoft versions, but if you are someone who has the Microsoft of 2016 plus, version 2016 plus, then it would be good to go in your particular Excel. But if your Excel is of 2010, right, or 2013 also for that matter in some cases, then you need to have a different sort of add-ons from Microsoft to add it in your Excel files. So this is what is very, very important. Now when we talk about the prerequisites, so it's basically you should have an idea of what functions are. So I will have a session here after this, or repeat. So I'll be talking about functions in the coming slides, but what is most important right now here is to have basic sort of understanding. What is a cell, what are rows, what are columns? I assume that you would be knowing all that. So that's the basic knowledge that you need. Then the system requirements. What do you need as system requirements? It's basically Excel, stable connection of internet if you are working with online data sources. If not, then that's also not needed, right? So one important aspect, if you are of 2010 or 2013, then you have to have certain add-ons in Excel. How to do that, I will tell you. But there are various things that may not be there, right? So for example, PDF thing, I'm not sure that it will be there in 2010 or 13 version, but you have to check it out. But even Power Query you have to add as an add-in there. Understanding functions for Power Query. Now in this module, we'll talk about what are the various functions, what type of functions are there that you have to manually write first in Excel, right? What is the thing that runs an analysis, right? That is the functions. So first we'll have a brief look before going into Power Query and understanding how this can done quickly. But first have a look at what functions are. So when we talk about functions, right, they are predefined instructions that perform specific calculations in a particular order in the spreadsheet, right? What is the basic syntax of this that we talk about is an equal to sign which defines the start of a function, right? Then what type of analysis you want to do, right? Is it sum? Is it minimum? Is it maximum? Is it average? Do you want to count things? You want to trim things? You want to concatenate? So all these things come under functions, right? So this is the analysis part of it. So the second thing is the name of the function, right? Average and everything. Then is the range of cells. Now this element, it starts with an open parenthesis and ends with an open parenthesis, but what is inside is the cell, right? What you have to determine is the cell or a particular string that you have to give, right? That depends on the type of function, right? All types have different sort of understanding. So for example, what is being seen on screen, there is a particular element, right, called E15. So this cell number is E15 and this cell number is E20, right? So you can drag and drop till from E15 to E20. So the range will automatically come from E15 to E20, right? So this is one such thing that you have to put inside the parenthesis. What else can be there is what we'll look at when we discuss the type of functions, right? So this is how you would have a standard thing set up. So this is all manual task, right? Please note that in Power Query, some of these elements would be just the click of a button. You do not need to add manually equal to, average, open, select the range. No, it becomes really easy in Power Query how to do these analysis. So the first type of function that we will be looking at today is COUNTIF. So a function that counts the number of cells that match a specific condition. So COUNTIF is there, then a range is there and condition is there, right? So if you have a range, if you have a condition, you can count the number of things. So it will give you the count of it, right? The second one is equal to len. If you want to find the length of a particular string, then you just have to click on the cell, right, type in equal to len and then just select the cell and close parenthesis. It will give you what is the length of that particular thing, right? Then comes left and right. So again, all these things that are there, right? A function that would return a specific number of characters from the left side or the right side. Each of these things that I'm talking about is a manual effort, and exactly these things can be automated using Power Query, right? So we'll have just a brief understanding before you move to Power Query. So from the left to right side of a cell, so we can write left cell number of characters, right cell number of characters, and this would be done. Then concatenate, a function that combines multiple text cells into a single cell, equal to concatenate cell 1 and cell 2. Then comes trim function, a function that removes extra unwanted space from the cell, equal to trim cell 1. So basically it would remove anything that is there extra that is not required in the analysis, so it will remove that, right? Concatenate is also very important aspect if you have to merge two columns, and this is quite helpful, right? So we'll look into this in detail as well. So now let's look at this file that I have over here. So in this we will be typing out these particular things that we discussed. But this is normal, this is not Power Query, this is normal what happens in Excel. So I just wanted to give you a gist of how the things could be automated there in Excel. So now if I have to look into how to get the things here, so what will I do? I'll write a function. In this particular thing, dataset, I have a movie title and a language, and I want to figure out what is the total number of movies in English, French or Italian, right? So for English, what thing I have to use is, you have to think about it. That's the human part that would be required to know which function to use, right? In this case, it is required as countf, right? Then this would be the criteria. Then I would add a particular criteria, right? I want English, so I'll write English, close parenthesis, enter. So basically in this particular range, there is 5 times that English is repeated, right? You can check it manually. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, right? So there are 5 times that is repeated. Similarly, I can do this to them as well, right? The criteria would be 0 because I typed in English, so I'll change it from English to French. And in this particular case, it's case sensitive. So if you type French in small f, right, it will not show you. The reason is that it's case sensitive. So now so this particular thing, right, I had to use B. So the column is mentioned is wrong. So I'll just change it to okay. So it's 5 times it is there. Similar to this, I'll just write it again. It's saying D because I dragged up there, so it changes the column cell. I'll change it to B, to B22. That's our analysis thing. And then I'll write here, since we want to know about Italian, so I'll write Italian, right? And I press enter. 6 is the number of times that it has repeated. So we will take an example of this Excel file over here. So what it does is, it has some unwanted spaces in the beginning of it. Now when you talk about the unwanted spaces that are there, you have to remove it, because this will be a hindrance when we work on the analysis part. Then this could be a hindrance. So what you do is, you create a name, movie title updated. Then in this particular case, what we'll do is, we'll put a function equal to trim, right? The best part is, Excel would give you the suggestion itself. I've added plus, should be equal to trim. Then which is the text, I'll put this and put this, so it'll give me this. So how I can check it? I can just drag and drop, so every unwanted space would be gone, right? The third is, we talked about left and right. So I want to extract the, let's say, left 6 digits of the pin code, right? So what I'll do is, I'll just write here equal to left open parenthesis, this number of characters 6, close. So will just give me the first 6 elements from this cell, right? Otherwise it would be very difficult to manually move it, so it becomes easier over here. Second part is that I want to extract the last 6 digits, that is county written, right? So again, the characters from the last one is county itself. So what we'll do, we will add in the right function, then I will click on that cell, then write here 6 again, because 6 is the number of strings that are there. So then it will extract me that particular letter county from this, right? So this is how left and right work. Then you have concatenate, in which if I want to merge all these first name and last name, what I'll do is I'll type in equal to concat. So it will give me both works the same. So you can use either, this is for a list or a range, this is for a text string, so we can use both. So I'll just click on this. And then I'll put my first, comma, second, and then close parenthesis. So it will give me the merged part of both of these, right? So this is how concatenate work. Then you have conditional format, I repeat. This is how concatenate work, right? Now if I have to look at the length of this string, so I'll do equal to len, then open parenthesis, click on this, then close parenthesis. So this is how you do and deal with functions. So this was about the type of functions that are there in Excel. Data transformation and data cleaning. So in this particular module, we will be talking about the importance of data cleaning and why is it important to have data transformation and cleaning in place before you get on with your project. The simple answer to that is data set should be as clean as possible, because at the end of your analysis, it should not be like you are at the end result, then you come to know that there was an issue in the initial part of your analysis due to a bad data set. So that's the reason everything you do has to be from a datum in which you do not have to get back to, right? So cleaning is one such thing that is very, very important. So in this particular module, we'll look at what are the various cleaning steps that are required and the data transformation aspect, right? So I want to take you to a journey of how an analytics project is thought after, what are the various steps that are involved in that. So if you see, what I've mentioned here is there are essentially 3 key steps to any data project, right? The first element or the first step is data cleaning. Now data cleaning forms the base of anything that you do, right? What does this mean? This means that if you're doing data cleaning, then it's important for you to understand the factors that are involved in it, right? There is a list of names and there are gaps in front of the name, right? When you're doing your analysis, that gaps would also come, right? Maybe there is a case in which you're receiving a particular data set from someone, maybe a third party data set that has in terms of gender, male, female, you have various numbers that are there, right? That is not accurate. So then you have to go back to the source of the data set and fix which column was converted into which column, what is the various things that have happened to that data set. So this is what you need to figure out from your end. What are the various things that can happen to a data set? There are a lot of things in which the pin codes, if they have asked in a particular data set, that should be of 6 digits. Maybe in some cases they are only of 3 digits or 4 digits, right? Which is incorrect. So that you need to figure out from your initial analysis of the data and then clean that data aspects. Second is the analysis part of it, in which you will be transforming the data to the needs that you are building, right? And the third part is data visualization. So what would happen is that if you're working on a data set, right, you're working in a company. So in that particular project that you're working in, there would be an end result, right? There will be a problem statement, right? Problem statement. Now, your manager or anyone who's leading the project or someone who is at the board of directors of your company, if they want to look at the data, it would not be in the form of tables, rows, columns. No. What they would be more interested in is the dashboard at the end, what you have built, or for that matter, various charts and graphs that would be involved. So this is one case in which you have to be very, very cautious, right? So the first step, actually the P0 step or the step 0, right? I like to call it step 0, is to understand what the problem statement is, right? Then move on to the step number 1, that is data cleaning. Why is understanding the problem statement so important? Because just imagine a situation in which there is a data set of, let's say, 6 columns, and according to your problem statement only 3 of those columns are being used, right? So you do not want to spend your extra time or cleaning the values that are there in the 3 unused columns that would never be used in your analysis, right? So in that case, you only have to clean the things that are in the columns that would be required for your analysis, right? So that's why getting the structure ready is very important. Understanding the problem statement, taking key notes from it, describing, okay, these are the elements that would be required, right? So in all of the forms that are out there that talk about data and talk about their data analytics, this is one key step that is missed by absolutely everybody. The importance of thinking beforehand before actually doing the analysis part, right? Understanding the problem statement, then going on to data cleaning, then having the various models set up in data analysis. It can be regression models, it can be different types of higher order ML models would be there, analysis model, exploratory data analysis, and everything would be there, right? So having that thing done in the first process would simplify and make your project more organized, right? You should not be in the analysis stage and go back and see, okay, this element was not clean, I'm cleaning it. Oh, this is not required, I don't want to use it. These are the things that we have to avoid. That's why having a structured approach to it is very, very important. The third element, data visualization, as I already mentioned, that the final element that board of directors or anyone in the company who is at the higher level management want to see, they would not see rows and columns, they would see what is the analysis that you have come up with, what are the hidden things that you are doing, so that they can make more improved, informed decisions for the growth of the company. So that's why it is very, very important, or the client for that matter. So it's very, very important to have this structure in play when we're talking about the steps or the flow, or the phases of a data analysis project. So I mentioned data cleaning being the most important aspect. Now let's dive deep into understanding data cleaning. Now data cleaning, we also known as data cleansing, is a process of identifying and correcting the various errors that are there, inconsistencies that are there, and the inaccuracies that are there in the data set. Now these missing values, duplicate entries, formatting errors, outliers, and inconsistencies in data, right? So you might encounter various missing values, right? Values that are not present. These mostly occur from open-ended forms, right? You must have seen how is data generated. First of all, is generated for me and you, like we humans generate data, most of it. If it is a business to consumer company, B2C company, then most of the data that you require for your marketing and all that things comes from the customers. B2B clients comes from the businesses, but let's focus our attention to B2C segment. So in this case, the missing values, how would they be created? They would be created, let's say a sign up form is there, right? On any of the website, there is a sign up form for that company. You would type out an email, you type out your details, first name, last name, and everything, right? So there are some values in which you do not have an asterisk mark, right? Asterisk indicates that it's a mandatory field to fill in the forms, right? If the asterisk form is not there, most of the people tend to not fill. If it is not present, this element, they do not fill it, right? Which remains as a missing value in your analysis, right? That's how a missing value is generated when we talk about majority. I'm just talking about majority of the aspects. Then you have also an element called duplicate entries, right? What are the duplicate entries? Maybe one person has filled a form, a particular Google form, Teams form, or let's say a different sort of form online, right? Web page form. They have filled it multiple times, right? So the duplicate entries would be generated. formatting errors would be there, uppercase, lowercase, different types of things, right? There may be some outliers, I mean, that I talked about, right? Columns having different names, if a person may have filled his last name in terms of first name. So all these different things would be there, right? Then it would be inconsistencies in the data that you would find. You would find numbers in places where the qualitative information should be there, right? So all these things are a type of things that would degrade the data set, that would make a data set poor, right? Also, there are two elements to a data set. When I talk about data set, there are two elements from where you receive your, as a budding business analyst, you would have access to two types of data sets. One is the one that would be trusted, that would be basically you would know the exact source of the data set, you would have the say in how to make that source of the data set better. The other one would be third party data sets that your company would have taken from somewhere, or they would have got for analysis from somewhere, right? Mostly in cases of consulting, you would have data set that would be coming from the client side to you, right? You do not have much say into how the data set should be in the first place, right? You have to analyze it, you have to clean it, you have to have your basic checks done, right? So third party data is something you do not have most control over. So the trusted ones, right, the ones in which you know the ends of it, the in and out of the data set, that is the one that's better. But it's okay if we have to do with the third party data set, we do not really have a choice, but we have to do it. So poor quality data set can lead to incorrect analysis, it can lead to the faulty insights that would be there, and of course unreliable decision making. So these are also the elements why data cleaning matter. So what is the importance, right? I already discussed the importance of data cleaning, but now let's just look at in more organized way what it helps you in. It helps you in improved accuracy. So clean data ensures that more accurate analysis and decision making is done. Then also talks about the cost saving. It prevents costly errors and mistakes based on the inaccurate data that is there. Then we also talked about the enhanced efficiency. So it saves times in data analysis and report generation. Data integrity ensures trust in the data and the insights derived from it. So this is what we talk about data integrity. Now, saving time. Why is it important to save time when we talk about data, right? So you might have parallelly running many projects at a single point of time. So in order to make sure that everything is done, tracked properly, it's important to have data cleaning measures in the first place, because otherwise you would have to struggle a lot, and then you would be mentally fatigued doing that, and also various key things you would lose out on, right? So that's why enhanced efficiency. Cost saving. So what happens in cost saving? So it prevents costly errors and mistakes based on inaccurate data. So I already talked about that. At the end, right, the board of directors would make informed decisions for your company or for the company, for the client, right? So understanding the importance of data cleaning so that you do not make such mistakes, and then the end result is not skewed, right? Also, one element in data cleaning that is, after you do certain projects, you would get to know, is that there is numeric data that's very easy to understand. Then there is qualitative data, right? What would be the example of a qualitative data? So for example, if you're running a restaurant and then you want a customer feedback on your dishes, or on your restaurant, or your various food type, right? So you'd give them a feedback form. So let's say if the customer fills that feedback form, then you would have a set of questions, right, that they have to answer. Some would be numeric, like, or some would be non-numeric, right, qualitative data. But how you figure out as a restaurant owners to write in the questionnaire part of the feedback, right? The way you write is also what matters, right? I'll give you an example. So if you're writing something like, how good is the food of a restaurant, rate from the scale of 0 to 10, right? So when I say this word, how good is the food, let's say, right? If I'm giving it and I write it to rate from, let's say, 0 to 10. So if I rate it from 0 to 10, right, what is the thing that is there, right? What is the thing that you pause this video for a second and think about what is wrong in this particular question. So once you do that, I'll tell you what it is. It's the word good in this entire question. Now, if you're taking the feedback, you cannot write a thing that is biased towards your preference, right? If I write how good is the food, the rating would be in terms of not taking into the bad perspective of the food. It is only the good elements of the food, right? So this would become a bias. And one important such thing in your analysis that you should look after is understanding the various types of bias that could be there in the data and eliminating those bias. You do not want your end result to be skewed in any manner. So it's very important to know that there are various biases that would be there in your data and the importance of cleaning those elements as well. Now, what are the steps that would be involved in a data cleaning process? So it would be assessment, data assessment, understanding the data and the quality of data that is there. Then is data validation, identifying the errors, the various inconsistencies and the missing values that would be there, right? When I talk about understanding the data and its quality, it's basically running through the entire data, maybe have a check done, various checks done, that if it is there, you just put a tick mark. So various checklists, right? Your checklist should be there. Then identifying those errors, inconsistencies and the various missing values that would be there, right? So that is data validation. Then is data transformation, standardizing and formatting the data. So it's very important to know that you have to make the data very consistent for your analysis. So having that consistency, having that standardized sort of elements is also important. Then adding any missing information or any missing context, right? So for this element, for this part, what you can do is you can go to the source of the data and identify what the missing information is, ask to your client or make changes to the information that is being provided to you, right? So what would do, it would increase the quality. It would significantly increase the quality of your particular analysis. Then documentation. Now this is also one important element that people tend to miss, is documenting the things that you have done. Thankfully, if you are working in Power Query, you would know the documentation automatically comes, what changes were made. But let's say you're working with a team of 5 to 6 people and then you have to figure out which person has made the changes. So it's important to have that checklist in play and the documentation done, so that you know that these are the people who have made the changes, these were the changes made, right? So having that habit of documentation really increase the efficiency of yourself, and the time that is spent on the project also significantly reduces, increasing the efficiency and the productivity of the project. Power Query Dashboard Overview. Now in this particular module, what we'll do is we'll have a hands-on session in which we'll open Excel, we'll see how exactly the Power Query editor window is opened, and then we'll transform some data and find some meaningful analysis out of it, right? So let's get started with it. So for this, what I've done is I've taken 3 dummy data sets. Now these are in the form of 3 separate Excel files. Now what I'll do is I'll transform this data into a new Excel sheet and merge all those 3 separate Excel sheets into one. How that is done, I'll show it to you. So for that, all the Excel sheets that you have, all the Excel files, they should be in one single folder. So for that, I have a folder named over here as Power Query. So in that, I have all the 3 different Excel files that I have put. So to give you a context, this is about an e-commerce shipping data of a particular company. So the customer ID would be there, the dates would be there, the cost, the revenue, everything would be mentioned, and the status if it is shipped or not. So in this particular case, what we'll do is we'll analyze the data from 3 different years, 2007, 2008 and 2009. And now to tell the power. So if you have 3 different data sets, the usual way to do it is to use a SQL file or to use SQL to analyze this kind of data, or Python for that matter. But in this case, since the load of the data is less, since the number of rows are less than what usually is used in SQL, we'll try and analyze this part from Excel. So in this case, what I'll do is I'll open a fresh file of Excel. So now I have opened a blank workbook. Note that I have not saved this blank notebook. It is just a blank workbook that I have opened. So in this case, what I'll do is, in order to access Power Query, we have to go to the Data tab in the ribbon and then click on Get Data. Now, one benefit of using the Excel that is after 2016 is that you have Power Query inbuilt inside the Excel. If you're using Microsoft Office versions of 2013 or 2010, in that case, you have to add this Power Query as a Excel add-in option, right? It would be there. It would be slightly different from what it is in terms of the looks, but the working would be exactly the same. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll click on Get Data. Now we have to see from what kinds of files you can upload. So from the recent ones, you can have an Excel workbook, which is quite obvious. Then you can also have in any Google Sheet CSV files would be there. You can have JSON files would be there. Also, you can have the Azure databases that also you can connect to Excel. From the database of SQL, you can also upload various types of files. So that can also be done. From MySQL, you can do that. From Oracle, you can do that. From different kinds of, even Microsoft Access database, you can upload the file here. So one thing that has come up in the recent ones, which I don't see over here, is if you have the latest version of Excel, you would also have data extracted from a PDF. So which was not there in the previous models and which is not here. But if you have the latest version of Microsoft Office 365, you will definitely have that PDF extraction option. So in our case right now, what we will do is we'll upload these files from a folder. So I'll click on From Folder option. Now I'll look at where my files are stored. So I have stored it in the desktop under the name of Power Query. So I'll click on this. I'll click on OK. So now what will happen is all the three files that have been uploaded, first I'll get to see the path of it. So it is stored in desktop and Power Query. Then all the three files, the details of the content would be mentioned over here, right? So everything is mentioned over here, that the name of the file, the extension type, also the date it has been accessed and modified. So different types of things are there that are mentioned over here. Now you get few options to know what kind of transformation or what kind of analysis you have to do, right? So the first step for my analysis, what I want is to combine and merge all these three Excel files into one. So in that case, you have an option here as combine, right? You can directly load all these files together, but I want to make changes to one file and I want to replicate into other two files without actually making change in those files. So in that case, what I will do is I click on this combine option over here. Then it will give me three different options: combine and transform, combine and load, and combine and load too, right? So for my particular analysis, what I really want is to transform the data and then merge all these three together, right? So I'll click on combine and transform. So it will evaluate where the path is in the local repository. Now note that if you're using a local server or a host that has to be accessed from a common server, in that case, this would not be possible. What you have to do is, in the local repository itself, the file should be maintained. The reason behind it is, even a slightest change in that repository can cause all your analysis to fail. So now we have this particular window that is opened. So in this case, it asks me the sample file, what it should be. Now, what is this sample file? Basically, what happens is that when you have three files, or let's say X number of files, it would first say that, okay, if these three are common or they have some common columns in that case, what would happen is they would want you to first make some changes or do your analysis in that sample file. When you are done changing or making changes to that particular file, then you can load and extract it to the rest of the file that you want to merge. So in this case, the option comes for all the 3 files that I have, but as a default it takes the first file. It recognizes that 2007 would be the first file, so it automatically takes the first file that it suggests you should load. So for my analysis as well, I'll just click on this first file itself, that is the 2007 data. So I'll click on order data over here. It will give me a sort of preview over here about how the data is. Now what I'll do next is I'll click on OK. So now what has happened is it has opened a new window known as the Power Query Editor. So all the things that you want to transform in all those 3 Excel files can be done at one place over here. Now whatever you do outside this, right, if you make changes to the data set after this, it would not be reflected over here. So you have to make sure that first your data set is complete, it's all the changes are done in that data set, then you come to the Power Query window. Now as you can see, my data set of 2007, it has some rows that are 999 plus. So it shows that there are some rows over there. Then you have all the columns that are listed, right? The source name, that is basically the name of the file. Then there is order ID. Then there is the volume of the shipments that are there. Then the revenue is mentioned, the cost is mentioned, and you have the order date, shipping date, order status, right? So now this is the basic layout of the file. I can see there the data is not particularly cleaned over here that we can do in this transformation, but what I really want is to have that thinking on what needs to be done next. Now this is a e-commerce data set. What would be my thinking seeing this particular thing? The problem statements need to be defined first and then the analysis needs to be done, right? So since the sample data set, it does not have a lot of complexities, or I'm not running an e-commerce store to know what insights I want, but as a dummy problem statement, I can have that I want to know what the profit is from each order that is there, and also what is the shipment days that are there, right? Now since this data is not clean, first we'll have some sort of modifications done in that case, and then we'll move on to the analysis part. So in this case, I see that the name is of the file is mentioned over here, which is insignificant to me. So what I'll do is I'll remove this column because it was not of my any use. Now I have the order ID, I have the shipment details, I have the revenue, I have the cost, I have the order date and shipping date. So the next thing would be to make sure that, see, I see there that the row number 6 has a missing value or a value that is not correctly stated. So in that case, what I'll do is I'll just go to the bottom of it since it's not a digit. So what I'll do is I'll uncheck that part and click on OK. So basically that particular row is of no use to us. So I'll just remove that. Then the next aspect is to find the profit of the particular thing, or if any, right? So in that case, what I'll do, from general thing, we know that revenue minus cost would be your profit. So in that case, I'll select this column. I'll click on control. I'll click the second column, that is cost. Then I'll go to the add column option over here in the Power Query window. So in this particular ribbon, we have something known as from numbers. So since these are numbers and I want to have a sort of subtraction done, so there are different statistics and different numerical methods to do that, right? So I'll click on this standard tab over here, and since it's a basic subtraction between revenue and cost, I'll do subtract. Now the subtraction is already here. This would be our gross profit. So now how would the Power Query know that you have to subtract revenue and cost, right? So in that case, it could have also done that cost minus revenue, right? So in that case, there is no such thing that it would know by itself. It's basically what you select first would be subtracted from the second one. That's the basic understanding of it. So now I have got at the end of it something known as gross profit. So I'll just move it to the tab near cost, right? So there are some areas in which you do not have, basically your revenue was the cost was greater than the revenue, so you did not really get any profit in that, you were in loss. So that is also being maintained over here. Now what else can we do in this case, right? So in this case, we would also need to know that, let's say that as a business owner, I want to know what time is the order being shipped from the order date, right? I want the shipping date to be as close as the order date, right? Now let's take an example. If you're going to buy something on an e-commerce store, you would want your shipment to be as soon as possible, right? Be it Amazon or Flipkart or any other e-commerce website that you're looking at. As a business owner, I also want the shipping time to be as soon as possible to make some sound decisions if my inventory has some issues or my supply chain network has some issues, so I can optimize that part. So in that case, what I will do is I'll again subtract the shipping date and order date, right? Shipping date minus order date would give me the number of days that are there in between, if any. So what I'll do again, I'll do the add column part. I'll select both the things, but this time I'll select the shipping date first because that would be later and the order date would be earlier. So I'll click on shipping date, then order date, then click on something known as date over here. So now you see that it understands that this is not a numerical value. It understands that it is date. That's why the option of subtraction or any numerical methods are already not given to us. So in that case, we'll just go to the date option. Then there is something known as, you have a lot of different options. You can change, modify it in the way you want. But what I really want is subtract dates. So I will click on subtract days over here and it will create a separate column named as subtraction. So I'll change that to number of days between shipment. Generally, try not keeping big headers in the columns because that could also, it would not be as optimized in your end result of visualization as you would want. So keep it as less as possible. So now in this case, I have gotten the number of days between the order date and shipment date. Now, if it is 2, right? Now, as a business owner, if it is as low as possible, I would know that this is going good. 2 should be the standard that maybe my company would have set. Now there are some days that are 6, that is almost a week, 5, almost a week. So now I would want to know what are the underlying factors that would be there. So I would probably see that, okay, if the same day, right, has delays, what were the reasons? Be it, was there no electricity in the ship, let's say my fulfillment center, right, my big warehouses. So what would be the underlying issue that would be there that could be extracted from this part? Now the next step, what I will do is, I've got what I wanted. Now you would see that revenue, cost and profit, right? These 3 elements should be in terms of currencies, right? So what I'll do is I'll select all 3 rows over here, then right click, then there's something known as change type. Now I'll change into currency. It will automatically come in currency. If you want to change the currency, that can also be done if you want to change it in the currency of your choice. Now what I'll do is, now this extraction for my 2007 file is done, right? My analysis is done. What I wanted to see, I've done. I've extracted the things. I've removed all the factors that would hinder my analysis part, missing values or the values that are incorrect. Now what I'll do is, I'll go to the home tab over here. Then I'll click on close and load. Now what will happen in that case is, it will automatically combine this type of analysis in both the files of 2008 and 2009. Now which would save me time. So this is also the process in which I can automate what I am doing to save time in terms of my analysis. Now this is the sheet that I have received from the Power Query editor. Now you would see that if I click on, let's say, any window, that is this, I would see it has already selected 7, 8 and 9. So already 8 and 9 are already analyzed in the way I want. So now I can also check, I can also see the status of what this has done. So in this case, I do get all the things that are there. I'll also get the data source of this is in my local repository. Now, what if I have to add the next year, let's say 2000 or maybe the previous year, 2006 or 2010, if I add it in the window after my analysis, after click load and save, if that file is present in that local folder, that will also be analyzed in the same way. So you do not have to do the entire process again. It will automatically understand that this file has been added in the folder, also needs to be extracted to Excel, and then the modifications would be done, right? So now our Power Query analysis is complete. Now what will we do next is we just have to have the table more structured. So structuring table is a task of pivot table. So we'll click on pivot table over here, and we'll let what the default setting is as it is, and then we'll click on OK. So now what happens is that a new window of pivot table has come. Now what we'll do is we just have to click on what we want to see. If we want to see the gross profit, we'll click on gross profit, and or we can just change it into columns, or let's have the date also, order date also mentioned. So we here now have all the things that we need. We have 2007, 2008, 2009. What is the sum of gross profit? We can see that 2008 to 2009, the gross profit has significantly increased, while it had a dip in 2009. I won't blame it if it is the recession of 2008, but nonetheless, whatever the reasons might be, that the owner of the business would know better. Since it's a dummy data set, I don't have to go in that integrities in detail. So now it also gives a better option, that is, it divides it into quarters. So it understands that, okay, you're talking about date and date are in sequence and all the months are mentioned there. What I would do as a Power Pivot would to extract those quarter values as well. So now this gives me a pretty significantly good idea of how my business is doing. In order to, let's say if you are working in the company and you're analyzing this kind of data and you want to make sure that this data is clearly visible to the higher management or to the higher board members, what you would do is you will add a pivot chart over here, because they would not have the time to go through all the things, all the raw data that would be present. So in order to make it more simple, you can use the line chart or you can use the bar chart. Line chart, I believe, would be better in case of showcasing the trends that are there. Now in this case, 2007, 2008, 2009, you can clearly have what the sum of the gross profit has been, right? In this case, if I have to change my analysis, I can do that as well. Also, I can make a dashboard out of it if I want. So this was about how the Power Query is useful in automating the task that we have in hand, and we necessarily do not have to use SQL to do it.
Watch the full video on our channel. Link is given below. Subscribe to our channel for more such content.